All right, Nick, let's talk about the Chicago Bears. Tough start to the season for the Bears. This is a team we're hoping they start out of the gate a little bit hotter, but that has not been the case. And we're not the only ones that think that. There have been some reports of potentially dissecting some comments that Poles has said, saying that they don't know what the future of this team is exactly. But let's get into the article. Let's read it, talk about it, and we'll get some thoughts on it on the other side. But Nick, this is from over on NBC Sports. NBC's Peter King jumped onto 670 The Score radio to explain his thinking on the matter and guess how the front office is processing Fields' performance 3 weeks into a winless season. He cited conversation that he had with Poles around the time the NFL Combine last year, suggested that the Bears had a non-committal mindset to Fields. He said he never point blank said to me, Justin Fields is our quarterback forever. He says he's got the job. He never said we're committed to Fields forever. He would go on to talk about just saying the wording and the verbiage that Poles used was very, very interesting, saying, and I quote, the quotes on range, listen, we love Justin Fields. He's going to have every opportunity to prove that he's the quarterback of the future for the Bears for the next 10 to 15 years. He never said this is his job forever. He said we're going to give him every opportunity to win the job forever. Remember, Poles is not the guy who drafted Fields back during 2021 NFL draft. Ryan Pace was the general manager of the Bears, and he traded to the New York Giants to move up in the draft to select Fields. About 8 months later, Pace was relieved of his duty as general manager, and not long after that, Poles was hired to succeed him. Now, Nick, I think this is very interesting. There's potential talks now after 3 losses in a row, 3 ugly losses in a row. Is Fields the guy? Hasn't been performing. He has not made the jumps people have wanted him to. Now people are kind of throwing that message out there. Well, they've never said that he was the guy forever. They said they're going to give him a couple opportunities. That could remain to be seen. It's very interesting. Nick, I want to hear what your thoughts are on this, but Bears fans, we also want to hear from you. What do you think they should do? You're the ones going through all of this right now. Do you think Fields is the guy of the future? Has he lost your trust? Is there somebody else you're looking for? Let us know in the comments below. But Nick, what do you think about the whole Bears situation?
So I'm going to start with Justin Fields. Look, I like Justin Fields. I'm a fan. I liked him at Ohio State. I think he's got every physical tool. I think he's got a lot of the great mindsets. He's clearly a hard worker, clearly a very competitive individual, worked really hard this offseason. We talked about it a lot ad nauseum. His receivers and fellow teammates seem to really like him, so he seems to be a quality leader. But for whatever reason, it's not working in Chicago. And right now, and I think Peter King brings this up, I think we're all starting to see it, that sometimes this relationship, it just ain't going to work. And right now there needs to be a decision to move off with Justin Fields. I think there needs I'm not going to use the word tanking, right? But to be honest, that's where we're headed here in Chicago. And look, now is probably the best year to do it. This is a very quarterback heavy class. You also have the Carolina Panthers draft pick in the first round of the 2024 class, plus your own second. So even if you don't end up with the number 1 or number 2 overall pick and get one of those quarterbacks, you'll have more than enough ammunition to go up and get a guy like Caleb Williams or Drake May from the University of North Carolina. Both guys look like transcendent draft prospects. I think that's what's happening here. It just makes sense from Poles' perspective. It makes sense from his, because at this point, if they go with Justin Fields any longer, he's basically going to be liable for him. He wants to keep his job. I think Eberflus, unless he turns around, is likely gone. A defensive-minded coach, a guy with his sort of background, that's not how you win in today's NFL. You check every quality football team. For the most part, they're all offensive-minded guys. If you want, like Bill Belichick's the exception, not the rule. And frankly, we see what he looks like without Tom Brady. Kind of average a little bit, right? You need the right offensive mind. They haven't gotten that. I think it's time to clean house on the coaching staff, move on to a different quarterback. And look, it happens. Like you can have a guy that you like, have a prospect that you really appreciate the energy and effort he puts into the organization. And sometimes it just doesn't work out, right? We saw that with the 49ers with Trey Lance. Like it's just something that happens. It's nothing against Fields. It's nothing against Chicago in this case. Sometimes it's just not the right fit and it's time to move on. And I think that's what we're seeing when we're here talking about these reports about Poles' comments involving Justin Fields. I think this is an indicator, and these some rumblings we're hearing behind the scenes now, that they are going to move on from Justin Fields, most likely after this season. The one thing I'm curious, and I want your thoughts on this, Mize, Do you think they pull a Kyler Murray and kind of slow, bench him, put him on injured reserve just to kind of protect him as a potential trade asset in the offseason? Because look, we know Justin Fields with his athletic gifts and his pedigree, someone will want to take a chance on him. Do you see the Bears kind of maybe shutting him down, protecting him, and then maybe moving him somewhere else to pick up some more draft capital?
Well, a couple things, Nick, before I get to that. One, you talk about Eberflus, how he's not the guy, not the right fit. The defense hasn't looked good either.
No, it's
38,
terrible.
27, 41, embarrassing on the defensive side of things. But as far as Justin Fields goes, I think maybe you try your hand, because if you look at the Bears schedule, a couple of potential games. Okay, if the Dolphins can put 70 on the Broncos next week, you'd hope Justin Fields puts up some respectable numbers there. So maybe they try to end on a high note, get him out there, get his best foot forward, show a spark or something like that. Then you shut him down. Oh, he has an ankle, or he's got a rib or something like that. Those ribs can be tricky. Those broken ribs, bruised ribs, they come back, every now and again, re-aggravated in practice. Never know what can happen as far as that goes. And Badgett doesn't look that bad. I think you can put him out there. He'll be competitive, fiery, but like you said, the Bears are in an interesting situation. And I think with everything we talked good about the Bears, we always talked about how there is an out for Justin Fields with them having 2 draft picks next year. And, if it does go wrong, at least it's going wrong in the best possible way. Carolina's 0-3. The Bears are 0-3. If you end up with the 1 and 2 draft pick, I think that is a pretty good consolation prize, something you can keep working forward to, because we see what the Texans did. They got CJ Stroud, then they get CJ Anderson after that. They got Anderson and Stroud.
Will Anderson.
Anderson and Stroud. And I think it looked really good. They're a strong team right now. Anderson seems like a beast of a player. Stroud's coming into his own. I think this could be a very, very interesting time for Bears fans. I don't think it's time to lose hope. I think it's time to, weigh the options and think about the future. And the future very well might be without Justin Fields.
And I think at this point, and you talk about losing hope, I think anytime I talk to a Bears fan or I hear a Bears fan, the word hope I don't think is in their vocabulary right now. But let's give some credit to Ryan Poles. And I know a lot of people don't want to. He's actually not saddled this organization without an out, right? He's one of those guys who's, as a GM, he's given them multiple opportunities with their draft picks, with their salary cap status, because he actually didn't blow all his cap. He actually still had some salary cap available from last offseason that'll roll into this coming offseason as well. So they've got a lot of options here as a Bears fan. And look, there's a lot of football left. A lot of things can happen. Could the Bears turn it around and have a nice season before it's all said and done? Absolutely. But from what we've seen on the field through these first 3 games, and frankly, what we've seen from Justin Fields through this point in his career, it's just not a great fit right now in Chicago for Justin Fields. And if you could definitely move off of him and get something in return, I think that's the best path forward, And I think Eberflus, I think he's not the guy. We always talk about it all the time on this channel. Don't give in to the sunk cost fallacy. Don't stick with Eberflus too long because you're like, well, we already spent all this time with him as the head coach. Don't stick with Fields too long because it's like, well, we invested in him so much. Look, sometimes it's just not a great fit in an organization and it's time to move on. And I think that's what the Bears are about to do. And I think it's the right move.